Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Zeba, and on behalf of the Progressive Students Forum, I would like to welcome you all to the online assistance session today. Progressive Students Forum is a student-led initiative at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences Mumbai campus. It has been actively involved in admission assistance to admission cell since 2000 through is beginning from the TISS.net admission helpline, which we had started in various languages and course-wise as well. Then we had a session on filling the detailed application form, the link of which will be provided just in case a few of you all have missed it. Now we are conducting a session on online assessment, and today is day 3 of the same session. Day 1 and day 2 were conducted on 6th and 7th May respectively for the remaining courses. So the school and the center we'll be covering today is in the following order. The first would be the Center for Excellence for Teachers Education, which has one course, one MA course in it. Then we'll have the School for Development Studies consisting of 3 courses. Then we'll have the School for Health System Studies, which has 4 courses covered under it. And at the end, we'll have School of Management and Labor Studies, which has 5 courses covered under it. We also have created a group for online assistance for the aspirants. There are 2 groups created on WhatsApp, the link of which will be provided in the chat shortly. Together, apart from that, we have also provided the various social media handle links to you all as well, so that you all can reach to us in case you all require any assistance. So yeah, welcome to all of you all, and I think we'll be starting with the session through the PPT. I would just like to inform all of you all, like if you have any doubts or any questions, you all can put it in the chat box, which will be taken up at the end of the presentation, so that it doesn't disturb the presenters or interrupt them during the entire session. So yeah, you all can put your queries in the chat box, and we'll start with the session now. So yeah, Gautam, can you please share this slide?
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah. Okay, so first we'll start with Center for Excellence in Teachers Education. And yeah, so I invite Bushra to start.
Thank you so much, Zeba. A very good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I won't be able to put up my camera on because there's no electricity in my region. Anyway, I will start with my brief introduction. So I am Bushra. I'm pursuing my MA in Education from the Center of Excellence in Teacher Education, TISS. And in today's presentation, we'll be covering majorly 2 things. Number 1, which is the extempore round topics, and the second one would be PI round general tips. So for the extempore round, we are given a time of 1 minute to think about the topic, and then 2 minutes to talk or write about it. Since my extempore was an online interaction, I had to talk about it. So here are some general themes and topics that could be a part of your extempore round. So they can ask you about a general idea of what you understand of education. What do you know about the role that education plays in development? Another thing that is very important is to understand that how different stakeholders are involved in the education process. For example, what is the role of the teachers? What is the role of the school administration? What is the role of the policymakers, etc.? They might ask you questions around that. And then it's also very important to understand and explain how central, state, and local government in education, play their role. What kind of role do they play? Then it's also important to understand and know about the various policy provisions around education, including RTE, NEP. NEP has 3 parts that you should be aware of because it came in it came 3 times in 1968, in 86, and in 2020. Then there are various acts and provisions in education are listed in the Constitution of India that you should be aware of, that talk about various rights of minorities, religious rights, and secular education, mother tongue, etc. Then you should also be aware of, the issue of caste in education, the problems that women face in education, and various, other issues in education maybe. Secondary education comes with its own issues and challenges, and for that one needs to be aware of one of such reports that gives us a national idea of what is the status of secondary education in India. For higher education also, they might ask you questions around how policy is made, or how regulation and accreditation is done, and by whom. For example, UGC takes care of it, or for example, what are the role of various state boards in the another thing that's very, very important in education is to understand the overall assessment. So they might ask you around questions around assessment, like, first of all, what is assessment? What are the types of assessment? Then also they would, they might ask about large scale assessments that are taken. One a very important one is the ASAR report that comes out every year, which gives us the general idea of the primary schooling of learning of students there. Then there is a PISA assessment, which is an international assessment that gives us the idea of at different levels of foundational learning. It's also important to have an idea of where educational models. For example, Delhi has its own model that gives us a very good example. Types of interventions that they have tried in education. Kerala is such example. Then you can also look at the international in Singapore and Germany. This is not a comprehensive list. It can obviously have more than this, but if you have an idea of some of these topics, I'm sure it will be easier for you to think about it. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so for the PI, so most of the PI is also influenced by what you write in your DAF. A number of times the interviewer might ask questions around what you have written over there, but other than that, it's good that a number of other things that might be a part of the interview. So they might ask you that, what do you think is the problem with the education system in India? Is it in a crisis or is it not? Then you have to justify your answer by giving reasons and explanation to that. You must also be aware of various alternatives, recommendations, or innovations that you can think of. You can also come up with various books that you might have read of some of the educationists. For example, Paulo Freire or John Holt, that would help give you an edge in the interview. Then an understanding of privatization in education. It's important to have a stand here, especially before the interview, because they might ask you that, do you think privatization is good in education or not, and why or why not? Then understanding digital education, its pros and cons, because we are living in a digital world. Because of the pandemic, we have seen how education has transitioned to online mode. It's also important to understand what TISS is doing in its own way to help in the education for its students as well as for others outside the campus. So there are a number of ways in which TISS has tried to come up with various initiatives. For example, there is School, there is Clicks, the School Synergy series, podcasts, webinars, and reports. You can find all of this on TISS website. Everything will be available there, and you get to know what each of this is meant for. Ministry of Education and its role in the entire education process, the policy making, the implementation, the evaluation. It's important to have a clear idea of what department does what. Then also it's important to know the status of your own state, like what kind of literacy rate is there, what kind of educational schemes the state is providing, and what are the challenges in your state around education. Also understanding about the course. So when you go for the interview, they will definitely expect you to be clear on what the course is. Are you able to understand what you're going to learn? So go through the website again and look at the course details. Everything will be given, everything is given there, semester wise, all the subjects are given. They might ask you questions around like, which subject do you think is most interesting to you? So you might think of that from that list. then it's important to understand that your interest in the course is also something which they will look for. Like, why are you coming for this course, and what is the reason? What is your experience and previous education, and how it is aligned with this course? What will you learn from this course? Then they might ask you questions around your plans after the course. So what are you looking for? Are you looking for research in the future, or practice, or social entrepreneurship? Anything that is in your mind, you should be well articulated with your plan after the course. Thank you so much. For any questions, please write in the comment section, and or maybe we'll take more questions in the end.
Then be the School of Development Studies. So I would like to invite Tarun to cover Master of Arts Development Studies program.
Can you move the slide? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Tarun. I'm from School of Development Studies. I'm currently doing my MA Development Studies. So these are the general extempore round topics that were asked last interview. Basically, these topics are general topics that are related to current social issues. Personally, I was asked the question of gender equality and development. Also, I was also asked about the condition of peasants in India, or the farmers in India. And yeah, so these are the you can take a screenshot, or you can look through the general. You could get a general idea of the customer topics from this. And for the, I don't have a presentation like PPT for PA, but the basic idea for personal interview is that it majorly depends on your undergraduate. For example, if I did engineering, which does not come from the does not come from the background of social sciences, so they basically tested why was I interested in this particular course. So I was moving away from engineering and doing development studies. So if you could justify your reason for that shift, then it will be helpful in your interview. And you could also provide examples, like what are you reading related to the subject that made me you can do this particular course. And for social science, so people from social science background, economics, political science, sociology, etc., it is very important to have a general idea of your UG subject. They can ask thoroughly from the UG, like your UG syllabus. They can ask on social issues related to your undergraduate, for economics, political science, socialist, and psychology especially. Yeah, and then another topic, like from my personal experience, I was asked about my reading, what I was reading about development studies, and it is like if you can read books like one book I recommend is from Amartya Sen, like Development as Freedom, because usually most of the faculties might have read that. So it's a very popular book, and it is also part of the syllabus. So it will be very helpful for your interview process and future course. Yes, Ajish, I will speak a little louder. So is it audible right now? Hello? Can you hear properly right now?
Yes, Tarun. Yes. Carry on.
Yeah, okay. Then another aspect is that then the other question is that you should also have a thorough understanding specific to the regional issues, social issues related to your region. And I was asked this question about one specific issue that is one issue that is specific to your region. I come from Kerala, so I was asked about that, and the interview. See, general mode of the interview is very chill. That it's a very relaxed interview. You don't get cross questions, or most of the panels are most of the panels are very relaxed. So that is, yeah, basically that's about the interview and extempore. I think Anjali Jose is next from Women's Studies.
Thank you, Tarun. Now Anjali will cover for MA in Women's Studies.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Hi, I'm Anjali. I'm pursuing MA1 studies from TISS Mumbai. So first we will discuss about the extempore topic that I have asked in previous years. So last year they asked about some topics related to women and farm laws in the background of farmers' protest and questions on COVID-19 and the related shadow pandemic and how it affected women. So you should expect questions related to topics related to current scenarios in a gendered perspective. And other common extempore topics are contraceptives and women in agriculture, women in science textbooks, and women in Indian cinema, media, and how women portrayed in our cultural realms, and women in literature. And they ask about the trans rights in India and LGBTQIA movement. And most time they will ask about the caste system in India and how they affect women in with respect to your region. So for me, they asked about the caste system in Kerala, and they asked about how much Kerala has progressed in the caste system, and they asked about the some general topics like secularism in India, menstrual hygiene, the gender pay gaps, and various acts related to domestic violence and other sexual harassment, and different women-centered programs and programs initiated in India. And they will ask about the class and domestic violence and the representation of women in politics, and how women were in front of the social movements in India. And with respect to your region, the women representation in the Telangana movement, for an example, and the Sabarimala movement. Next slide, please. And some of other topics were like the purity rituals practiced by several castes and how they related to women's bodies, and the coming social media culture and the gym culture, how a woman's body is portrayed in social media and in general in a postmodern world, and the factors for sex ratio difference in your state, and different social movements where women were at the forefront, and they will ask about your opinion on the celebration of Mother's Day, Women's Day, International Girls' Day, etc., and several welfare schemes for women and girls. And they'll try to ask about your views on gender, religion, and society. And sometimes they will ask some extempore topics related to your graduation subjects. And next slide, please. So in PI session, we have generally 3 panelists, and they are very friendly and cool. They will make you comfortable. So don't worry about or don't be panic. And the most important thing is that you should have thorough knowledge about what you have written in your DAF. Most of the times, the faculty stream questions based on your detailed application form. So don't bluff with your answers. Be crystal clear and genuine with your answers. And don't try to contradict your answers from what you have done in your DAF. And please make sure that you should refer to the syllabus of women's studies of this which is available on this website. And there will be questions related to your graduation subject. And if you are from a non-social science background or a background like engineering, they will ask about why are you switching the field, why are you interested in this course. Most of the time they ask about why are you doing women's studies. And please try to form a gendered perspective on the relevant topics or the current happenings in our state, in your state, in our country, and in an international realm. And please do have a thorough knowledge about current happenings. Do read newspaper, and please analyze and observe about the editorials. And you should form an opinion about the ongoing scenario, because they most probably they will ask about it. And please try to read articles or books related to the course, like the articles written by feminist scholars or the current relevant articles written by them. Next slide, please. And some of the most common PI questions are, first thing is, why are you doing women's studies? They really need an answer which should be genuine, because they are primarily they are checking your interest. and they should ask about some common questions related to dowry, child marriage, domestic violence, bride trafficking, and the portrayal of women in media, movies, advertisements, marketing, etc. And what changes you have observed during the decade in their representation. And there will be questions based on your DAF. Why are you pursuing this course? Why you choose Mumbai? And there will be questions like based on your bio sketch, and they'll ask about the experience in your previous college and what will be your plan after PG. And there will be some general questions like gender responsive budgeting and patriarchal representation of women, domestic violence, etc. That's it.
Thank you so much, Anjali. Now we'll go forward with the School of Health System Studies. And I would like Marufa to cover Masters of Hospital Administration.
Thank you, Zeba. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Marufa Faruqi, and I am currently enrolled in first year of Master of Hospital Administration at TISS Bombay. So for the extempore topics, we are covering the extempore topics, and we will be talking about the PI experience of ours and over the years, how they take place in TISS. So for the extempore topics, since we were in an online mode, we were asked to, we were given to we had to think 1 minute for the topic that they had given to us. And during that 1 minute, you need to pen down your thoughts, your opinions, whatever you feel you need to speak in the remaining 2 to 3 minutes that they will give you. So these are the list. The list is extensive, but these are the topics that have been asked since past few years, ranging from privatization of healthcare, challenges of healthcare managers, migration in health. One thing that you should understand while sitting for MHA as well as MPH, that the questions that they will ask in MHA particularly, it will be an amalgamation of public health as well as the hospital scenario of be it your country, your state, your city, your locality, etc. So you need to be really thorough with the statistics, your demography of your state, city, locality, etc. What I did for extempore topics as well as PI, I used to follow the Hindu editorials, since many of our TISS professors are really active and they write really good editorials over there. So you really get a good idea from there. And then I also followed Vision IS health section, particularly health section, and Drishti IS health section. So you will get an idea how, like the healthcare scenario is in the country, what is the situation of hospitals in the country, what are the reforms in the hospitals that has been taken place since the past few years. So they will also ask about the PPP in healthcare, social determinants of health, community participation in healthcare, ranging from infection control, patient rights, COVID-19 vaccination policy, since it was really, what I can say, since 2020 it was really trendy. So we were asked more of the questions on COVID-19. So for that, and I was asked digitization in healthcare. So you just need to be really thorough of what you study. You need to be really mindful of what the topic has been given. Think about it in 1 minute, jot down your points. They might give you another topic if you are not comfortable with the first topic. But when you switch to the second topic, you are not able to switch to the first topic. We really don't know how the process will be this year, but this was the process during our times. So these are some of the extempore topics. Next slide, please. Suicide prevention in youth, gender disparities amidst the pandemic, PHCs, medical malpractice, reforms in hospital, digital health in India, etc. Coming to the PI experience, next slide, please. So the PI question, it always starts with, a formal introduction of yourself. They will ask you, tell me about yourself. Why do you want to pursue MHA? What is the scope of MHA? They will ask you, what do you know about MHA and what is the scope? Then how is hospital administration related to your field of graduation? Since many of the students come from different backgrounds like engineering, many come from BCom, BA. So you need to be really thorough with what you present. Your answers should be really structured, and you need to be, since these questions and answers are really subjective, you need to be really structured and very clear with your answers. What is the role of hospital administrators? They might ask you what is the difference between administrators and managers in hospitals, and what are your expectations from the course? Have you applied for any other courses apart from MHA? Have you applied to any other colleges? And they also might ask you what were the role of hospital administrators during COVID-19. So we were asked particularly, and if you are experienced person, if you have a work experience, they might ask you questions based on that. So it is really subjective, but you need to be really thorough with your DAF, and whatever you answer, the next question will be based on that. So you need to be really mindful of what you portray yourself and how you introduce yourself to them. Next slide, please. So these are some of the helpful tips that helped me also during the preparation. Prepare a thorough formal introduction of yourself. You need to practice as much as you can. Skim through the syllabus and subjects from the TISS official website. They might ask you what will be the subjects that you will study during your course. So you need to be really sure about it. Be thorough of the demographics of India, your state. You can take help from ET Health app, NFHS surveys, NHM, etc. And be very confident while answering the questions, but avoid answering questions if you do not have any stated figures of facts. Avoid bluffing while you answer, since the panelists are really experienced and they are one of the best in the industry, they might catch you there. So avoid bluffing while you answer. You can just avoid answering by saying, sir or ma'am, I will just look into it, or I'll get back to you with the answer after this. Be thorough with a work profile if you have any work experience. Since I had a work experience, so my questions were mostly based on that. You should know about the public health as well as the status of the hospitals of your state, city, etc. Like I mentioned earlier. Be very thorough with your DAF, since many of the panelists do skim through your DAF. So you need to be really prepared with your answers, and always try to drive the interview. And when I say this, I mean that whatever you answer, they will put the question immediately to that. So they will counter, counter question you. So you need to avoid contradicting your own answers, and you need to be really well prepared. And I guess, yeah, that is how you drive the interview. So thank you so much.
Marifa. The next course is Masters of Public Health and Health Administration, which will be covered by Aishwarya.
Okay, yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So good evening to everybody. So I'm Aishwarya, and I'm currently pursuing my Masters of Public Health and Health Administration. So what I would like to do is I would just give you all a theme, like on what theme the questions or the extempore topics were based. So because like giving you a big list won't make any sense. So like the first theme what I would talk about is like it was based on medical ethics and rights of patients as well as the healthcare providers and all of that. So you can see the extensive list of the topics like, you have mercy killing, then you have violence against healthcare workers, death penalty. So in and around this theme, you can expect questions. Okay, the second theme is health economics. So you have to be knowing about the current insurance schemes that are running in our country, or particularly at least in your state level. Then you can, since the pandemic is still on, you can be asked questions related to catastrophic health expenditure, which many of the people faced in our country. And how is health and development of a nation related? So you can have questions here, and you can be given topics here and there. The third theme is environment and health. So what effect does the environment have on a person's health status? So you could have very simple topics like air pollution and its effect on health, or maybe global warming, urbanization, climate change, to name a few. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right. The next theme that's emerging, that emerged was society and health. Okay. So we were asked topics like women empowerment, AIDS and social stigma, alcohol ban. So this was asked to me. And it could have more topics like mental health, lifestyle changes, what does that have, or what effect that has on your health. The next work could be work and health. So occupational stress, how is it related to a person's health? So what role does an occupation of a person have on his health status? So all of these can be expected. As already Marufa mentioned, like, public health and hospitals go together. Like, you can also be asked maybe on related topics to hospitals, such as how is the pricing in hospital done, here and there, role of managers and all of that. The next thing that's very specific to this course is you can be asked questions related to how the health sector governance happens, or what are the administrative things that are happening in our country, like the public-private partnerships. What is the difference, like the rural and urban healthcare setups, the different levels of healthcare, how are the PHCs working that way. And the next theme that can come up would be national health schemes, programs, both at the national as well as the state level. So you should be thorough with both these, like the national levels. So the very commonly asked thing was PMJ, which was Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, also known as like Ayushman Bharat. Then you have health sector reforms, like you can go back and read. It's a bit of like a historical kind of thing. And various policies like national population policy, health policy, all here and there. Everything related to the administrative aspect of health, like health sector, how is it delivered? Okay, can we go to the next slide? Okay, yeah, so as we are all in the current pandemic, so obviously we can all expect questions related to COVID. So you can have questions. The list is quite extensive, so I'm not going through it. You can just maybe note it down. So COVID is a very short topic, so you should just try to cover all aspects related to it. The next thing that came in was health technology. This is similar, like the digital health mission, which was rolled out like recently. Questions were like a topic was given, and here and there you can have questions on innovation. You can also be asked artificial intelligence, latest health technology as a topic, that way. And the last theme being miscellaneous, which are like obviously the things which are not covered in the above themes. So you can see that like for this, maybe you should be like whenever your interview is scheduled, in and around that month or previously 1-2 months, you should be knowing the national days of health, like, yoga day or some other day. So maybe you could be asked, given a topic that way, or that could also be given as a topic. And very generic topics like road traffic accidents, non-communicable diseases, what are the challenges for public health? So, role of the research institutes like ICMR, what is the role? So a very generic broad topic can also be given. Okay, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So as many of my colleagues have already covered many of the top tips for interviews, what I would like to tell you is you should prepare a formal introduction, though you may be or may not be asked. Okay, so because it depends on the round, like if you're the second candidate for the day, maybe you might not be asked an introduction at all. They might directly get into the interview, and your questions are more or less, it's like, sometimes it can be based on your DAF, sometimes the DAF is not relevant only, because that happened with me. And you should be like very well versed with the location, like the health related parameters in your area and your state. Like at least your district level, you should know which is a disease like that is having the highest prevalence. Like what could be the indicator that can be used to justify the same that way. And you should also know about the national level indicators like MMR, IMR, what are these, how is it measured, what could be, remember the latest one, you can have a, approximate kind of thing, but don't ever tell a wrong answer. All right. Then you can read, obviously you should read more and more and try to assimilate the main essence of the topic. That you have to read health related current affairs. So you can read any particular newspaper which could, give you the health section, what is happening over there, like the Hindu or something. Or I use this app. Okay, so ET Health World app. So it's like you can download it from Play Store and you can just read, because you have topic wise things which are given in that. You can use that. Then you should know the main core subjects of your UG, like maybe your specialization or whatever. Okay, for the people who are coming from non-medical background, at least why you should know that. And why is that you desire that you want to do public health? So that answer should be fixed in your mind. And since we have 3 specializations in MPH, you should know why you want to do HA, like why you want health administration over policy or something. So that answer you should prepare and keep. Next thing is, like, you should not mug up. Don't ever try doing that. Okay, like, just try to just join topics or connect between what you're talking, and just revise, like, just skim through the main important aspects, and don't ever say wrong things, like wrong figures, wrong statistics. I think it could have been that, I could think it could have been that. Don't assume things and say that unless you're sure of it. And try to stay neutral, because we are not coming for like maybe to our opinions over here don't matter. Like, we are just coming for an interview, so we have to try to maintain that neutrality, and do not blame anything specifically, like maybe some entity like a government or maybe a state or something. Just try to say, if you can't do anything good, just say maybe a solution that you think that can work. And also try to keep your answers crisp and to the point. Don't drag them here and there, so they are going to get confused and annoyed, and that just spoils the interview session. So for those of y'all who are not from medical background, I would suggest 2 books. One is K Park, which is like preventive and social medicine. Like, it's a book, like and or you can have the alternative, Vivek Jain. So for these, like, you can ask any of the senior batch students, like, for the important topics. Like, you don't have to read everything. You just have to read main things, like, to understand how does it, the healthcare delivery, how does it happen in our country. And also to read about the national programs. So I would recommend maybe take the latest edition. Don't go for the old editions and all that. Okay. And obviously the last thing is, like, stay patient, because sometimes your interview can be like, you're admitted and then you can immediately have the interview, or sometimes you have to wait for 3-4 hours, like, you have to wait. So you have to stay patient and try to listen completely and give the panelist an opportunity to talk, and you don't go on talking. Like, and obviously if they are saying it's no, then you have to agree with them and not argue. So that's a key essence for cracking the interview. I hope that helps. And like the questions, if you all have any, you all can just put it on the chat box. Yeah, I'm done with mine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aishwarya. I'll be covering the next course, which is Masters of Public Health and Social Epidemiology. Next slide. Yeah. So these are some of the themes for the extempore. Like these themes are basically the same for all the MPH courses. So I would request you all to take a screenshot of this and the coming slide, which will help related to the pandemic, how we managed it, the preparedness and the lessons learned for the future, then how public health has evolved and the various challenges, then related to climate change, issues like malnutrition, vector-borne diseases and waterborne diseases, the effect of globalization and urbanization. One of the important themes would be social determinants of health and how they have an effect on health, what are their linkages, then universal healthcare, and about demography and health. And you have to also be thorough about the demographic dividend in the country as well as in your state right now, and see the transition as well as link it with the epidemiological transition. Next slide, please. Yeah, okay. So the next is like health as a human right and the human rights or health rights of the society. Then you can there's a theme around mental health during the pandemic as well as various policies in our country. Then violence against the health workers as well as non-communicable diseases, as well as the double burden of diseases which developing countries are facing, including India. Then you can also read about the Millennium Development and Sustainable Development Goals and the role of international organizations and research institutes in shaping and promoting health. Then various health policies and programs like I have mentioned here. Then also maternal and child health programs are as well are an important part. So that as well can be asked in your extempore. Then the three-tier structure of health system in India, various health insurance schemes, the effect of privatization and the PPP model. Then health needs of special groups like migrant workers, maybe urban slum, need to prepare about that as well. And then also importance of community participation and mobilization in healthcare and occupational health hazards and various policies related to it. So please take a screenshot of this as well. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, so for the interview, like most of it is covered by Marufa and Aishwarya. So I would just like to tell you all that you need to be thorough about the course content. You can go on the TISS website and see what subjects are covered or what are the themes, so that you will be able to understand what you are interested in, and then maybe it would be easy for you to align it to your UG course as well. Then you can also read about what are the career scopes and roles. Like you can read about the various roles of the district health epidemiologist, for example, and then ask you that as well. So, and firstly, you should fill your DAF very carefully, because most probably, mostly, not all the time, but it decides the line of the questioning. So that's important. Then as you're doing, you need to know epidemiology, like very basics, what are incidence, prevalence, as well as types of studies. And mostly like we have these qualitative and quantitative research studies. So you need to read about that, and you need to know what is the difference between the studies. Then various health indicators like IMR, maternal mortality rate, like about being an endemic, pandemic, and epidemic. And yeah, about COVID-19, there's a chance that they will be asking you about it. Then you should also know about the basics of biostatistics and like very basic. And it is important to know about your local area, district, and state as well. So be thorough with the demographic statistics. Also ask you opinion-based questions. So for these questions, like you should that if women face more health issues, so you should be able to back it up. Like if you think is the reason, how it has an effect on that is what you need to tell, and not just superficial answers. Then you can also go through the IPHS guidelines for the PHCs, CHCs, etc. Then see the health budget of the country as well as your state as well, and mostly yeah, go through the highlights. Then there are various sites like the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and UNICEF, NHM, which you need to go through. And apart from that, so about the stats and data, you can go through a national family survey, district level, to know. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Bushra to cover Masters in Public Health in
Thank you, Zeba.
Yes.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dr. Bushra Sheikh. I am a student and Master of Public Health, Health Policy, Economic, and Finance. So I have my UG background in medicine. So and how it is different. This is a course that is designed to study the health policies at national and center level mostly. These course consist of policy of making influences the process of policy making. What is the role of various stakeholders within the policy formulation, what is the role of various political parties within the formulation of policy. Apart from that, we also study various topics of health economics, the demand and supply of various health services. How are they decided? How is it decided that which health service must be prioritized over the other? Health finance is also a very important topic within our syllabus. We do study health finance system of various countries and we make a cross comparison. Hence, our topic should revolve around these similar topics. Therefore, health in topics like health insurance, what are the various different type of health insurance? What is the health insurance that is prevalent in India? What is the health insurance scheme that is prevalent in each state? Each state has different health insurance scheme, which is now converted into Ayushman Bharat. So if you are from Maharashtra, for example, Maharashtra has Mahatma Jyotiba Phule Jan Ayog Yojana. So you might get a question regarding that. So do read about the health scheme of various states. They would ask you about the role of various civil societies in NGOs in policy making. So you must be familiar with these topics such as maternal and child health programs like weekly iron and folic acid supplementation, Poshan Abhiyan, Mission Indradhanush. Mission Indradhanush becomes important because it is also given in the your community health textbook, that is KPAR. As my colleague mentioned, you must read KPAR, but try not to read it from a medical lens. Try to see things from a social perspective when you read KPAR. So this makes it easy for other students from non-health background to read this textbook. There are various topics such as topic about surveys or various social aspects of health are highlighted in that textbook. So that textbook can be a very good asset for that. Apart from that, topics like such as universal health coverage in India, and try to read about some countries like UK, Germany, Cuba, and not in its entirety, but maybe just a gist about it. COVID-19 vaccination policy to go through topics such as vaccine resistance and vaccine hesitancy. Role of migration in health becomes important because you can see at the time of COVID-19 there was a mass exodus of migrants to their health back home. So whatever health topics are present in your current affairs will be an important part of your interview. So make sure that you read them and study them. Topics like community participation, community engagement are important, and NCD is important. Why? Because currently in India, the burden of NCD is rising. So you see whatever topics are a part of your current affair will be important. Next slide, please. See, here I have highlighted some health policy that might come into discussion. This is a comprehensive but not exhaustive list. So, when you go through this list and when you try reading on these topics, you might end up discovering other topics. So that's how you would develop your own list. So policies such as National Health Policy of 2017, 2002, 1983, how the evolution of National Health Policy in India took place is important. National Mental Health Policy becomes important. Why? Because recently there has been a budgetary increase in the National Mental Health Program. So you must read about how and how much of this budget was increased. There are many articles that were written to criticize the allocation of that increased budget. So you must be aware about all these programs. Do read about geriatrics because aging population becomes one of the major problem in the country today, and that brings you to the topic of LASI, longitudinal age study of India. Topics that such as how the age structure of India is changing, which are the states that have prevalently aging population and which are the state that has younger population. You must be aware about these things. Do read about things such as double burden of diseases. What is the prevalence of NCDs and communicable diseases in the country? How is the structure changing over the time? How is the structure different from developed community and developing community? So read about epidemiological trends and transition. Next slide, please. Okay, do pay attention to topics such as role of health technology in health, how the use of simple technology, cost-effective technology has been helpful in the recent past. Development of cost-effective technology of RT-PCR is one of the example. Do study about census, surveys, what are the type of data, what is primary data, what is secondary data, what is case control, what is cohort. You can find these topics in KPAR. Read about road traffic accidents, read about medical tourism, corporatization of health, and read about AIDS or eradication program. For example, TB eradication program, National AIDS Control Organization, NACO, or AIDS eradication program. Read about leprosy eradication program. Read about how we conquered polio. Read about how is the prevalence of anemia scattered within our country. How is stunting or malnutrition present in our country. Next slide, please. So some of the interview tips that I would like to give you, be calm and composed and confident. I know it is a lot difficult than it is said, but anyone who is composed and confident, any interviewer would be interested in taking that interview much more than anyone who's anxious, not very good at its presentation. So that is an important thing. And when they ask you to speak about yourself, make sure to summarize your DAF in few words, but do tell something that is apart from your DAF that you have not mentioned in it. Do tell points that you think will set you apart from the other your competition. This is a university that has about 2.5 to 3% of acceptance rate. So they are looking for people who are well versed with the topics that of health and public health. So do highlight those points within your introduction. Be confident in your UG concepts, because a lot of this will drive your interview. For example, I am from homeopathy, and so I was asked about the relevance of homeopathy in public health. A lot of questions will come from your work experience, and this is a personal interview. It will be different for each and every individual. And do not put on certificates or courses that you have no idea about. For example, if you have taken a contact tracing course of WHO and you have no memory of it, please do not mention it, because this will come up in discussion. Be prepared for a cross course topic. For example, if you are appearing for health policy, you might get questions from social epidemiology or health administration. That happens sometimes. So be prepared. That is, if you are applying for social epidemiology, make sure that you are well versed with all the topics of all the four courses of health. You can drive the interview a lot of the time. For example, when you are speaking and you are asked about a particular topic and you end up giving example of, for example, national population policy, or for example, national tobacco control program. So the next question will constantly come on those topics. So a lot of time you can drive this interview in your favor. And do not provide any false data or information, because the person who are facing is an expert within the field, and please do not argue with them or offend them in any manner. They are extremely talented and critically academically acclaimed people, so we need to be respectful of that. You can, if you have selected more than one field of MPH, you will be asked the difference about the different field and why have you given that order of preference. So be ready with that answer. And do learn about the career prospectus after your MPH. What are the organizations that will hire you after you have completed your MPH? Also, or what will be your role after completing MPH? Next slide, please. So these are my interview questions. I was asked about SDG or my relevance in homeopathy and public health. Why was I changing the field? So take a moment to take this question. A lot of time your extempore topics will come into all these things. So it's all interrelated in one sense. Thank you. Zib, I'm done.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bushra. The next we'll be covering School of Management and Labor Studies, and we'll start with HRM. I would like Anirudh to take over.
Sure. Thank you, Ziba. A quick check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, sure. So, first of all, about extempore, all the previous speakers before me have mentioned it elaborately how the procedure is. I have just added a sentence mentioned on the university website in the admission process. The panel members will give a topic relevant to the program of study, right? So this is the key area. So about specifically HRM and LR, instead of mentioning all the topics, I have tried to segregate topics according to the themes because it would be very haphazard to mention all the topics. So these were some of the topics that were asked to some of our classmates last year. As you can see, COVID-19 and consequences, diversity and inclusion, career or future of work. Future of work is an important theme currently, because post-pandemic, we are moving toward a hybrid work model, right? So how the work is supposed to be, how the workplace of the future is going to look like, that is an important area to focus on. Leadership management, because again, even though it is MA course, you are going to be a leader or people manager in your future. So you have to have some ethical competence, some clarity, leaders on the things like leadership and management. Also, there are some terms that we commonly use, such as motivation or work culture, right? You have to be clear about what motivation means, what work culture means. You can't use these terms very casually, right? Social media, again, we are one of the leading countries using social media, and social media is touching all the sphere of life. So you may think, what is the relevance of social media to HRM? But again, as I'll cover in the next slide, HRM and LR, that is human resource management, deals with all the employee life cycle, as well as the education part that comes before it, so that it makes candidates more eligible for workforce. Again, economy and development, contemporary issues. Please take a screenshot of this so that we can move to the next topic. Next slide. Yeah, sure. I think the right side has been slightly, was that not an issue? So coming back to the personal interview and general tips. General tips are related to both extempore personal interview. So all the previous speakers before me have elaborately discussed about interview. So let me state it, let me make it very clear. Interview is nothing to be scared of. It is just a conversation with a purpose. They are there to select you. Okay, you have already cleared a screening test. Screening test is supposed to be rejection test, right? So you are one of those few. First of all, congratulations for being here, right? So now they are sitting there on the interview panel to select you. So you have to give them reasons for your selections. Again, how can you give them reasons for your selection? So they'll be asking you questions. They'll be trying to check that why are you doing the decisions, why are you making the decisions which you have been doing so far in your life. For example, your motivations for this course, why HRM, or any other courses before that, right? Why do you want to pursue this course? You have to tell them a story. You have to connect the dots at particular point of time with your previous work, previous background. Uh, they are trying to look after learnings so far, whatever experiences have been, such as life experiences or your graduation experiences. As somebody before me mentioned, what are your favorite subjects from your graduation? They are not going to grill you on technical aspects. Okay, they just want to know what attitude you have been carrying through in your future life as well. Again, STAR framework, this is applicable branches. STAR, so whenever they ask you a question, how are you as a person, don't say I'm a hardworking person, I'm a very punctual. You can say that, right? STAR, situation, task, action. Google this term so that, but again, you have to be very specific with the exact points we'll be mentioning, so that it is not a generic but a personal connect will. Again, why contemporary issues are asked? Because going to check how well aware person you are. For example, issue, for example, great resignation is happening, or Elon Musk and Twitter takeover is happening, right? So they want to know how is about the contemporary issue, because again, as I mentioned earlier, tomorrow you will be a man and a leader. So you have to have some opinions of your own. Uh, don't just think in terms of what value you will be deriving out of this course, but also try to portray you'll be doing to the batch as a whole, as well as most importantly, think in terms you keep smiling as this leads us to our calm, have a positive mindset. It is just a conversation with just cool. It is not a stress interview. Most of the time across any case where the interviewers try to grill the, then it becomes stress interview. They are not there to grill you, right? They just want to understand how are you as a person and what decisions have you so far and why are you here for this interview. So now, again, this has been covered. Go through the course curriculum thoroughly. Macros as a surprising, so I don't know this topic, vagera. The terms such as performance management, talent development. Google some of these terms about this. Again, foundation. If you are applying for HRM, why HRM is necessary? So end-to-end employee life cycle, start recruitment, their performance management to their exit. try to understand the end-to-end employee life cycle. Business newspaper enough, not just for your interview, but even after your, as I mentioned, you will be working in corporate life or any organization for that, be generally aware. So I'll emphasize on this. Please keep reading a business daily. That will help you in for as well, and as also making some solid decisions to interview questions. So editorials can help you, articles, magazines, some magazines such as People Matters, HR Katha, or ETH websites can definitely help you in creating a holistic understanding of how HRM is as a field. Some short free courses, you don't have to pay for anything on LinkedIn Learning or Coursera. Some facts, data points. Even the speakers before me have mentioned the importance of facts. You can't just fab there. You can't just say something randomly, right? So for example, my extempore topic was diversity in organization is a myth. Okay. So I can just say diversity is good, organizations are doing good, right? I started by saying, with current pace, it will take 80 years for diversity to take place in organizations. So they were shocked. And then I followed it by, this is not me, gender gap report by World Economic Forum has said, right? Much more credibility to whatever you are saying. Facts and data points, because again, as it adds credibility, all of these things, you have to make notes, no easy revision. You don't need to write down everything that you come across. All the important themes, you just have to prepare optimally. You can't prepare everything. Just try to prepare optimally. Just try to prepare enough so that you will have some swad anusar chidupne ke liye material or extempore. Some of the recent examples show that you are a well-aware candidate. Recent, you know what you are talking. For example, layoffs. So on Academy and Vedanta have been initiatives. Flipkart is coming up with some Samarth initiatives. Good case studies. For example, recently Wakefit adopted. All of these are recent happenings. So you should have this. That is where the notes come into picture. It helps you in revision as well, and it confidence just a day before interview. Follow AR accounts. So TISS, HRM, and LR has ARC accounts on LinkedIn, Insta. There are different issues as well. In terms of interview as well as such as why HRM, tell me about yourself, how to justify gap years, etc. Then hygiene, because you are there for the interview, it is one of the, right. So be mindful about the camera setting, your audio, dressing. Just to emphasize on this point, separate Wi-Fi on my home because internet for my interview. I wasn't sure whether I'll get cracked through. Thankfully, I did later on as well. But again, that how about that particular day, right? Keep following some of the thought leaders, as in some of the industry leaders help you develop a perspective in terms of how the course curriculum is currently going, how the field of engineering as a whole. Please take a screenshot of these things. Any questions in the chat?
Thank you so much, Anirudh. Now I would like to invite Deepyan to cover Master of Organization Development, Leadership, Change and Leadership.
Yeah, so thank you, Jim. So most of the points in regards to the factors and do's and don'ts of the interviews are covered by colleagues from different courses. So like also talked about how this particular under the School of Management and Labor Studies are more oriented towards the business domain, right? So you have to understand the don'ts and do's of the business world, because at the end of the day, though this is a social institute, particular questions or the particular what can I say, the roles given after joining this for ODC was the field of management or so. In regards to the extempore topic, so you can see that my batchmates that in the interview, so it can actually cover certain, it can cover current affairs. So you can see topic reverse migration. Even I was actually asked about COVID-19 has impacted on the nature. So it might seem like it's that's a very topic to talk about, but it's not. You have to understand the there's a particular thing called PESL. So you can Google the particular term PESTL. So whenever you are talking about an extempore, try to chart the points that you want to talk about in PESL format. You can talk about each and every fact been affected by the particular that is given to you, and that also talk about if in case first case that you are not getting a topic in your own area, just ask for a second. You cannot switch back. I don't know if they are going to change this time around or not. So also in regards to that, the topics from business domain also. So about how family owned businesses operate, or even certain corporates, how they are actually in current scenario. For example, there's also mergers and acquisition been. Also, unicorns are had its 100 unicorn. So one of the also important topics is to have understanding of business. So kindly follow one newspaper like Hindu Business Line or there. So Google these terms. So this can actually come in your extempore also, right? To give a vast topics to what can I say, to drive you into that in particular series of topic only. Have a holistic understanding of each of the probable extempore topics that there are, and if you are faced, for example, both of the topics are not in your area, try to again, like I said, PESL is a format. Points that is coming to your mind and face it accordingly. Okay. Another thing is in regards to the PI questions. So play it like it is like any other interviews. So if someone here has given CAT or something like that, if you have, then you have already prepared for how interviews for B schools, right? Not, then try to have a articulated manner in terms of introducing yourself. If they are asking you introduce yourself, try to phrase it in manner. And also ask you, like, the first question is what has been your journey from go on like a rambling mode, that I try to phrase it in a story mode, try to put them into asking your questions a manner that might be in your ballpark. So this is the art of giving an interview. Has been talked by one of my colleagues also earlier. So do that. So try to have the interview the way that it can favor you. And this so also there's you have to understand is why TISS. The obvious this might be a reason, right, that you want to do this, and why ODCL also. So in both regard, you have to be crystal clear in terms of why you are choosing it. And also there are 5 books that have been recommended in terms of the field of OD in the TISS website. So go through. So I had read Thomas Wally. So you can refer to any other books also. So read read it and try. What are the particular core areas that there? What is OD? How strategy? For example, recently, like actions are happening, right? Or even due to COVID, organization structures are created in different organizations. So how they are operating? What are the particular? So try to understand that whenever a question. So the business question, that is, don't try to see it from societal lens. Obviously, it is social science, and see it from a corporate point of view also. That point of view, how can, why the, what is the organization is doing this? There might be a reason, right? For Tata bought, right? So Air India. So reason. So try to see the reason behind it. Society obviously there, but there's also a corporate lens involved. Try to see that, and try to see who are the leaders in the field of OD, and also try to see what they actually talk about. For example, one of the books that have been recommended, it has been the OD thinkers, and there's also Uday Parekh. So after that, ask you some general questions. For example, there in your district, how many, for example, how many, what is the population in your, or as individuals coming from your district, or from your, if you are coming from Kolkata or Mumbai, who are the maybe even a particular segregation named after a famous person, and situation. For example, last time around the questions were in our NRC and all those, to see the corporate societal sense, but see corporate angles behind it. For example, farmer laws quite a few months ago have been back, right? So what are the particular positives around negative, but how to try to answer the question that it can actually balance it out. So don't keep a one-eyed view. Try to see it from both. So that will actually help you in regards to business-oriented interviews. And one of the things that been happening is that the DI, the diversity, inclusion, and so read about that LGBTQ movement. So recently, these have actually partnered with Bernard Ricard in regards to grant for transgender individuals. So read about that. So there's more points there also. So yeah, so I think I covered all this thing, and if any kind of questions that you guys have, we can take it at the end of the session. Yeah, yeah. Move ahead for the next one.
Yeah, any social entrepreneurship, which will.
Okay, hi, I'm audible, right? Okay, so yeah, thank you. Like for extempore topic, you all current affairs, like what is happening in the country, how entrepreneurship ecosystem is currently at a boom, the recent unicorns and how businesses, but also it helped grow so many businesses, and what are the reasons behind that. How will like about the female, who all female entrepreneurs, what they did, your knowledge, is this going to knowledge of your social is this going to help address the social problems in the society. This was actually asked to me, how are you going to implement educational sector. It was my extempore topic, that tell me about the problems related to education and how are you going to solve them through the entrepreneurial perspective. Or one of my friends was actually have more entrepreneurial ecosystem behind that, and what is better, family businesses, and there were also globalization has impacted entrepreneurship, or which is better, bootstrap ventures or funded ventures. Yeah, so this is very important. Like, I might ask you how has give some examples. Okay, innovative enterprises, innovative is bottom line, which is socio-economic and environmental. These three things are in and why they are important. How is sustainability incorporated in the ventures? Social developmental goals are inculcated. Okay, and some examples of that. And now coming to, obviously they will ask you about your background, your educational background, your background, etc. So that is, I feel, choose where your interview is going to flow. Why are you choosing TISS? Why are you choosing social entrepreneurship? If you have previous experiences in the entrepreneurship, because they are going to help you start your own venture. That is what they're going to do. So you should have a clear plan of how this course is going to align long-term goal of starting your own venture, right? So be very clear about that, because that is, I feel like, the make and break.
There's some.
So am I audible?
Yeah, now you are.
Okay, better. That they will ask you about what they have done, some social enterprises that are started by TISS or TISS. We have our own our ventures after the 2 years. All right, you should know about before beforehand. And what is the difference between venture and a social venture? Know that difference. Play a role in uplifting the society. Obviously ask you your generic questions about hobby, who's your role is, just to determine what kind of person you are. Enterprise creation, because it is, you need to be they need to assess are going to stick through it, because a lot of people to fail in the venture. Ventures are successful, sometimes are they not, but the most important, so they want to see that if you have the guts enough creating a venture. And in this course they will, throughout your to work on that one venture design, and in this we will have to implement our venture design on a, which is called a pilot project. So we have to see if our not if our venture is working or not, and accordingly we will change things throughout the course. So it is just about your one to start. So please be mindful of we will take questions at the end. So thank you, Ziba.
So much. Next, I'll be inviting the to cover Master of Arts, Master of Science, and Analytics.
Yeah. So thank you, Zeba, again. So on behalf of my friends at Analytics, so though I'm from ODC, I'm going to cover this course also. So if you can see the extempore topics, this particular course is named Analytics, not Business Analytics per se. I've seen the course curriculum also. Verticals of analytics, be it supply chain or even geoscience. And the reason behind, if you and what are the particular future outcome that if you see the extempore topics, there was that field of data sciences and analytics only. So how data drives good governance, Indian polity, how technology impacts employment, which is related to HR, how could be the new future. It is linked towards AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So you have to understand those kind of things. So from actually understood from my friends at MSc Analytics, that is. So PI questions, it will actually revolve around mainly the points that have been already covered, like introducing yourself and TISS, that is, and questions like it is there for other. Like for example, it can be as basic why cleaning of data is required. So it is a kind of very basic thing. Analytics person can, anyone can go through the particular hygiene factors in regards to the also, and what are the particular current involved in regards to analytics, where government companies or if they are using so apart from that, it can be regarding security. For example, Facebook have in question in regards to data integrity, so you have to understand those kind of, and apart from that, it can be integrated things, right, like APGP or even in mode. It can be as basic as that. So you have to understand here the basics of it, and apart from that, the question can be related to the what kind of tools that you have used, as to analytics, Power BI, Tableau, what kind of languages you know, programming languages. So yeah, so that should cover it. Yeah, yeah, I'm done.
Hello everyone. So my name is Ashmita Gupta. I'll be taking you quickly through MA labor studies and practices. So these are some of the estimates prepared for last year. The labor very crucial that you go through the new labor codes that are in, but they are on their way. So earlier the course was named globalization, been named as labor studies and practices. So you globalization in labor, how globalization and then move into labor niche of labor. You should know, since the course name is know informal labor, the with respect to India and globally, we are thoroughly taught about in the course about and their impact on labor, WTO or UNDP, CPC, every especially focusing on ILO, you should be website. Moving on, in informal labor in India, issues and the questions that were asked. One of the extempore topics that was given to a classmate was on ASHA workers. Aware about all of these sectors. Organizations for informal labor in India like Seva. Decent work. What does decent work mean? What does future of work mean? Of work mean? All these terms can be asked as your topics. A topic could be as basic as women in which was just slightly topic. So that there you have to give a very basic answer. They might not it might not leave a but get involved involve an anecdote, involve some stats, and try involving some stats into the topic. That helps. And then women effects of climate change on labor, these sort of things like that that might come in your extempore. Moving on to the personal interview questions. So this is basically what I was asked in my questions taken from my friends. Basically, we were asked what was your if your my UG background personally was asked why the shift. Then a lot of questions arose from my DAF. So do not lie in your DAF, and I would suggest that you mention the strongest topics, your strongest areas that you have in your DAF, which will, because they will be going through your DAF while you are giving the interview. So you will be asked questions. Like I mentioned, my favorite subject in BCom was economics. So I was asked questions. I was asked, who is your favorite economics and by them. So do not lie in your DF. That's very important. Everybody's mentioned it right now. Then please prepare. They might not ask your introduction per se, but they might end up asking, like there's a huge chance they might have end up asking any questions you have. So prepare some good questions that you can ask them. If you don't know any, I didn't know two answers in the interview, and I just said I don't know, sir, and they asked me other questions, and it ended up just being it was a 25-minute interview, and it ended just being a conversation with the professor, which ended up really well. They might ask you about social reformers and social activists. I was asked about a social activist. I didn't know the social activists, but I knew the work they'd done, so that helped. And you should definitely know the history of trade unions in India, since the course was initially based for trade unionists. The course involved both students, people from other sectors, and trade unionists. So you should be knowing the history of trade union in India, and the have in the country right now. That should help. And I'm sending a list of some some names that you can that you can check out on Google. They're the work written by them. That should help, that should really help you. And since this course is like kind of new in comparison to other courses, and it was one of the core founding members was Sharid Bhaumik sir. So I would suggest that you go through work by them. I'll write their name in the chat box, you can go through. And yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box and we'll take them up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashmita. Most of the questions in the chat box have already been answered. There's just one or two questions which haven't been answered. So we'll take that. And if anyone else has some other questions, they can. Regarding the stats and related to the state as well as districts, you can study about the infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, and the general statistics related to your state. And someone background thing, so you need to have a basic hold of your undergraduate because you have studied it for 3 to 4 years. So that's all what they expect. And someone had asked about social epidemiology. How would you answer why you are choosing this particular course? For that, you can refer to the site, the content of the course. So that might help you to align it, and you might know what subject that you may be able to connect it and align it with your interests. So that.
About the stats?
Sure.
It's easier, you know, there are a lot of stats that you might come across while you're reading some topics. That comprehensively would be download NFHS 5 fact sheet for any one of the state and see what are the stats that it is only about 2. You can see what are the stats mentioned in that. So consequently, you can, you know, Google and read about your own state, what stats you should be looking for. That's it.
Thank you, Bushra. Yeah, so almost all the questions from if there's something else to ask, you can ask right now as well. Sure, Sumit.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I just had one question. I have applied for HRM and I'm a fresher. So just to get, just to understand the basics of HR, what should one do? Because I do this fields for that reason. Like, what are the things? Like, I went through the course syllabus. I'm covering that, but apart from that, that's all I wanted to ask.
Sure, Sumit. Hi. Thank you for asking that question. I was in the process of typing an answer. The question was asked on DM as well. So first of all, see, know that you are there to learn HRM and LR, right? They're not expecting you to already know HRM and LR or any too much in-depth specific stuff or the course of your interview as well, right? So just being thorough with some of the basics, what HRM and LR means, going through the course curriculum and having an idea about what those terms stands for is enough. Second, some of the important or major happenings you should be aware of. For example, what is Great Resignation or what is work from our hybrid model, right? What are the reasons that employees are leaving the companies, etc. Other than that, I have already answered 2 to 3 questions on the some free learning Coursera website, and I have also mentioned some of the resources that you can refer to get a grasp of some of the important concepts of HRM in current happenings. HRM and LR, if you are asking Disha, gap year students, see, these most accepting panels you can find in country. They are not there to judge you based on your future potential. And again, as I mentioned during, they want to know your purpose. Why are you there for pursuing any course? HRM? They are there for asking what is your motivation to pursue that if you can connect the dots well, if you can justify your gap years, no advantage. I can tell you based on our own experience and experience of our senior batches as well. So don't worry about whether you are a fresher, whether you have gap years, or will experience work experience will be at an advantage. No, it doesn't work that way. TISS panel is very open. They give you a very honest opportunity, open chance, and they don't judge you based on your past scenes, such having gap year.
Someone has asked, I have many achievements during my schooling at state. Shall I mention all of them during my introduction? Yeah, you can.
Sure. Rule of thumb is you should keep your tell me about yourself or introduction in less than a minute. Okay. So for me, when I started, it was around 1 minute 30 seconds. You have to have a repeated iterations to prepare your pitch. Tell me about your introduction. Tell me about ultimately for all, this is applicable for all of the branches. At the end of your interview, you should be giving them some memorability factor or sticky factor that they'll remember you even after your interview as well, right? So if you are bombarding them with the data, there won't be many data pointers for that will be sticking in their minds about you. Might human mind when gets bombarded with data, it is very difficult to store that memory, right? So just mention relevant achievements. It you did in your 4th standard or 7th standard, right? So the chronology should be your if they are national level or state level. Otherwise, try to align your answer about small intro about your back. I'll recommend this highlight for any aspirants from in the end. Why are you there for pursuing that course, or what are your objectives? That course, that's it. So try to under a minute. That's it.
Thank you, Anirudh. I don't see any more. Okay, someone else, is just important to mention hobby and interest in your detailed application form.
Yeah, Jeba, I can take it. So, example, something which is directly related to and you want to highlight it in front of the panelists. So you can actually include in the particular story that you are going to tell in the DAF, for example. They want to learn more about you. So there will be dedicated question in regards to that only. So you can actually try to link it there. And if something, for example, you have been swimming and have actually participated in state level or maybe even normal, so forth, right? So you can include those kind of things in your story, and if it is actually defining your character, then I think you should. However, it is something which is which you can actually tell if it is petty or it might not be that much important. No point in including that in depth. You can actually talk about it in the final interview or in the main interview if they ask about details, right? Yeah.
Ajesh, regarding your question, whether you should be mentioning what you did in your gap years, in your gap years. So yeah, if you have been preparing for the Air Force or whatever productive you had done during the gap years, all the relevant thing you can mention. Anirudh, someone has asked, how do I answer why HR as a finance grad?
Sure. So the thing is, again, as I have been repeatedly said, they'll ask your motivation. So first of all, you should have a very clear idea about why do you want to switch from finance to HR. So what I can recommend is try to do, as I mentioned, some of the resources, try to do some of the certification courses on LinkedIn Learning or Coursera or anywhere. Second, you can mention, Rohan, if you have a work ex, or if you have a work ex, then you can see during your stint as a finance graduate, you realize that you would like to pursue, you are fascinated with the potential and scope of HRM as a branch more, and that is what you are looking forward to pursue for the rest of your life. That can be one of the approaches of going about it. So try to do, I know the time is limited, but if you get an opportunity to pursue an HR internship, that's what I did and it helped me. So if you could pursue an HR internship, that can give you a connecting factor, right? So because you're pivoting from finance to HR, you should have some connecting pointers that they can see, okay, so this is what you have done, and that is why you're going for HRM. So that can be a certification course, that can be an internship, or any that can be your work case or previous experience. I think that's it for if you want. If you don't have any of this, I highly recommend at least one of these through, but try to portray it, try to play on your strength, or try to connect that with your personality. That I realized a few years down the line that HRM is the domain that I could relate with maximum with my competencies, skills, abilities, and interests. That's
Okay, we'll be putting the link to our various social media accounts. So if you still have any queries, as well as we'll put the mail ID of the admission help cell. So if you have any more queries or questions regarding to various programs, you all can please mail us or reach out to us through our social media handles. So thank you everyone for attending this session, and for all the volunteers for volunteering to do this session today. So we'll conclude now. Thank you, everyone.